Hello, this is Harry Paden. I'm the host of the Paden Perspective. Today, Season 2, Episode 16, the subject, Raising Teenagers. Very complex subject. If I knew the answer, but here's some of my answers. So, you're raising a youngster or youngsters between the ages of 13 through 18. That's a difficult time. I was fortunate. I have 6 children. My children, some are, most all are parents, and some are grandparents. So, I raised them in a little bit different time and era. But some of the principles of raising teenagers, they'll probably go on for time, they'll go on forever. I was a parent who raised my children my way, or the highway. It wasn't a whole bunch of communication. It was me talking to them and them pretending to listen. And they did hear a lot of things. They did, so don't get it wrong. But today, I've taken on a different perspective, and I probably would have raised my children a little bit different, a lot different. I didn't have any instructions, didn't go to school for parenting, but now that I've seen my children as parents, I've learned from them because they're great parents, and their children are great children. And there's communication, man. It's almost, it's not even parent-child. It's parent-friend. And their children are older. Their children, remember, grandparents, great-grandparents, their children have children. So when you get to be an adult, or your children get to be an adult, and they remain your friends, it's nothing like it. Best friend you could ever have. Some have friends from high school, some have all the other friends. Those are great friends. But when your children are your friends, nirvana. Okay, let me start this. Now, again, as I say, if you're raising teenagers, as you would do if you were driving in the Indy 5000 or just on any highway where y'all see cars flying by, buckle your seatbelt. Teenage years. During this time, that sweet little child, the little one who was sweet and did everything you said and didn't talk back, and was just such a great, great child. Well, they'll transform from that person into a teenager, where when you ask them how was their day, it's all right. My children couldn't say things like that to me, but it's okay to be able to communicate. You just correct them. Don't say that to me that way. If you want to say your day was okay, when you talk to me, you talk intelligently. You talk to your friends, it's all right. When you talk to me, it's okay. And you might want to include mom, mother, that's how we communicate sometimes. That's how I communicated, because my kids say, it's all right. What? Nah, I never hit my kids. My kids can tell you, I never hit them. I have such a loud mouth that I kind of scared them until they got to be teenagers. You can't scare a teenager. But the funny thing about raising children, at least I found, because I have raised 4 girls and 2 boys. girls develop faster than boys. That's a fact. That's not even a me thing. That's a fact. And soon they begin to go through things that are not just even emotional changes, but physical changes. They menstruate, develop breasts, hips, legs, rear ends. This is an adult conversation here, and similar, very noticeable traits. That's why sometimes you have to watch your child, because grown men will start to notice, and grown men sometimes don't have a cutoff point in their mind, so you have to watch it. Because as children develop, you got to be careful, because some people, they just see the parts, they don't see the age, and that's why a lot of people are in jail. But some girls embrace it. Nice. Okay, they embrace it. They know they've grown into a woman and their body parts are filling out. Some girls are embarrassed. Whoa. Because everybody's noticing that stuff. And it's embarrassing if you don't want it. It's unwanted attention a lot of times. So they're growing, and they're growing very fast. Now, because the girls are maturing differently, like with boys, you don't see the maturity necessarily. They may grow taller. Some boys in the teenage years may have facial hair, but not as much as noticeable changes with girls. But when the girls start making these physical changes, the boys start noticing, oh, did you see Mary? And they start talking to themselves and, talking among themselves. And those things become the subject of many boys' pastimes. Like I said, sometimes adult pastimes, so always watch your children. There is that dynamic. It's out of creation, because again, the Bible talks about, and I'm not talking about homosexuality, it has nothing to do with homosexuality. But God created Adam, and he gave Adam a companion that he called Eve. So there was a companion phase where one person was attracted to another person. So that now has been changed a little bit. There are men liking men and women liking women. That's not my subject, nor do I care to make it my subject. My subject is raising teenagers. And interesting enough, that may be a teenage type situation. I hope to discuss at some point. I don't want to get distracted. But boys start noticing girls, and again, some girls relish it. Oh, wow. I am the most popular girl in school now. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Oh, yeah. And some girls, again, shy away from it. But then some girls go to the route where, because the natural attraction, natural nature, is to like the opposite sex, or to like other people. Forget the opposite sex, I don't want to be politically incorrect. Like other people, that attraction becomes something that can dominate their mind. I love him. He loves me. And we're going to be together forever and ever. What? You're just 13 years old. But then in their mind, the first time they've liked someone, they'll say they love them. That becomes the most important. Do your homework. Okay. Hey, how you doing? Yeah. Sure, we can't talk loud because I don't want mother to think I'm drunk. So homework doesn't get done. Problems develop in school. Problems develop because, when you don't do well in school, most parents get upset. So that becomes problematic. I'm going to give you a solution to some of this stuff. Well, things that I think are solutions. Well, I know there's solutions. I try to be humble, but hey, again, I've done that. I've been there. Engaged hundreds of children, teenagers, and I've done pretty well. That's a fact. But I get distracted sometimes. But you can dress your teenage girl in a burlap sack, and they'll still get noticed. So don't think, take off that makeup, don't wear that tight It's okay. Certainly you have to have rules and restrictions. But boys gonna notice if they go frumpy, dressed head to toe, boys are gonna notice. Some things you just can't hide. Just can't hide. But one thing I always stress, written a book about it, is the three C's. The three C's, and I'll get into in just a minute, really help with teenagers. But you have to start way before the three C's. So again, I'll give you some information about the three C's in just a minute. But the major problem with teenagers is that their physical, as I've said, their physical body matures before their brain. So the things that they do, they are not guided by the brain. It's guided by those physical things. Girls like boys, boys like girls. That kind of thing goes on. And when that happens, it's like discovering a new favorite dessert. Oh, Johnny's cute, and he likes me. Oh, I'm so in love. Hey, that's just how it is. That's just how it is. And see, sometimes we as adults, we forget that most of us were just like that. See, I lived back in the age where there was one phone, there was no call waiting, and I stayed on that phone talking to my little friend, and we talked. The time got at school to 9 o'clock, and he said, "You can't nobody call me because you're on the phone." But that's what we did. We was in love. I can't remember half those girls' names. I remember one of them, though. I do remember one of those names. I'm not going to embarrass her. But most of them, I don't remember their names. But I was so in love with them, and would do anything. And we got in trouble and stuff like that because, again, parents didn't like you staying on the phone. But overall, if you were a typical teenager, you had some interest in someone at the time you became a teenager. Again, it's natural. It's not perverted. It's not, you can't make your child not like someone. You can't. You can beat them. You can lock them in the room. Unless you're going to be keeping them in Oklahoma, way up in the, part of Oklahoma that nobody can get to, it's going to happen. Get over it. And here's how you can try to deal with it. Because I talked about the three C's. My three C's was control, control, control. I'm your dad. I tell you what to do, when to do it, and you do it. That's my control. If you don't do it, there's consequences. Take away privileges, can't go certain places, make life hard for you, my control. And I was a total control person. If my children came home with A's and B's, oh yeah, good report card. But you got to bring them B's up to A's. Whoa, trying to raise the bar high. And I know as parents that's what we try to do. But sometimes you just got to recognize the achievement for what it was. Good report card. Now on the B's, anything I can help you with to get them up a little higher? Because, you got A's in some subjects. That's communicating with your teens, as opposed to saying, you better bring that B up to an A. Whoa. You tell me what I better do. Something is wrong because I ain't better do nothing but stay black and die. I like that. But here's my real three C's. Don't do the control, control, control. My three C's, consistency. As a parent, you should be consistent. The rules should be consistent. You should be consistent. Do what you say you're going to do. Be consistent. I always tell this story. When I was raising, I had different instances where I was a single parent. I was raising younger children then, and they weren't teenagers. And my daughter, Shahara, she had friends that would come over and they would, engage and everything. That's part of life. Again, I'm talking about, girlfriends, because she was very young then. And one time, we were in a car, and the girl said, "Mr. Paden, can we do such and such?" I forget what the exact subject was. And my answer to her was, "Someday." Okay, no big deal, right? Then I happened to overhear my daughter whisper to the girl, "Someday's a long time." And when I thought about that, what would she say? Someday's a long time. Because every time my daughter asked me for a bike, and I couldn't afford it, I was struggling, I say, "Someday she'll have it." Everything that I couldn't get, instead of being honest and say, "Daddy can't afford no bike. I'll get you one, but I can't afford." I'll say, "Someday." So in her mind, she said, "Someday." So be consistent. You ain't got you broke. Look, I love you. Times are hard. That's why I want you to get an education so you don't have to struggle like mommy. You don't have to struggle like daddy. That's the conversation I should have had. So then that someday, because someday was kind of a kind of way of lying, because she ain't never seen that bike. I don't know if I ever bought her a bike. I was struggling. I said someday. So someday was a long time. So consistency. Be consistent. Don't be a change parent. Don't be all over the place. Communication. That's the second C. Communicate. But it doesn't start at the teenage years. If you try to start at the teenage years, it's too late. It has to start when your child is young. Children have a right to express their opinion respectfully. They do. "Mommy, I don't like this. I don't like this." They have a right to say that. When I was growing up, we didn't have a right to dislike anything. The rule in my parents' house was, if you don't eat what we eat, you don't eat. Whoa! I don't like pig feet. That was a big problem in my house. My parents were from the South. Never ate a pig feet in my life. I have not. Yeah, I know the history of all of it. But Harry Paden wasn't feeling the smell. So Harry Paden learned, well, that's your rule, that I won't eat. Yeah, see, they helped me a little bit because I never gained that weight. But consistency, communication, the third, like they say, last but not least, is caring. And showing that you care. Don't be so tough a parent that you don't show you care. Example, the child comes home and says, "Today, I had a bad day. The kids kept talking about me, and they kept doing this, and they kept doing that." Control Harry. "I don't care what them kids say. I don't do nothing for you. You go to school and you learn." Wait a minute, I just dismissed the fact that my child came and said something happened to them, and now they think I don't care. Because kids can be cruel. I remember it. Kids were cruel. They talked about you, talked about your mama, talked about what you wore. And as a kid, as a teenager, it breaks you down. It breaks adults down. But as a teenager, if you don't have somebody you communicate with, sit the child down. Even though you're busy, you ain't got time for caring. What happened? You talking to your kid. What happened? "Well, so-and-so said that the earrings I have are cheap. And she said that nobody wears earrings like that. And Mommy, all the kids laughed." See? Now, in your mind, you're saying, "Get the heck out of my face with that nonsense. Some like kid what that little knucklehead kid said. Did you know that her dad was in jail?" Look, don't go there. What you do is say, "Yeah, I can understand that. That would make me feel bad too. But here's how you probably should have handled it. And it might not work. But don't show that it bothers you. Sorry you don't like my earrings. But I love them. But they cheap. You got them from the bargain store." "Yeah, but I love them." "Your mama should let you walk." "She did, and I love her." Now it might get you in a fight because that person's gonna get so frustrated because you didn't show. See, when you broke down, when you showed, you had a sad face when they said that, right? You shut up. You sat in the corner. They said, I got him. Talked about those little earrings. I wish I had a pair of those earrings. That's why they said it. Because they jealous. So the communication then, you're helping your child. You're helping your child. Now, raising teenagers is rough. If you remember the second George Bush, he had two teenage daughters while he was in office. They was out there smoking reefer and all that kind of stuff. And he had Secret Service that watch his kids. So if the president has trouble with his teenage daughters, his daughters aren't teenagers anymore, then it's going to be a rough road. But again, remember the 3 C's. And it starts early. The earlier you start, the better it will work. Consistency. Be consistent. Communication. Talk to your child. Allow your child to talk to you. Even when you may, in your mind, don't say it, think it's stupid, think it's silly, think it's ridiculous. Because teenagers have feelings. Little kids have feelings too. And the third is caring. Again, the third one, but probably the most important. If your teenager wants to cry, let them cry on your shoulder. Again, even if you think, let them, because then that says, my parent cares about my feelings. And when they get older, that's going to help you develop a friendship with your child. When they have a problem with their husband, they will call you. Because they know you care. You beat him as a teen, not beat him, but you browbeat him as a teen, as a child. I didn't come to you. I told you shouldn't have married him. Who want to go to somebody like that? Even if I made a mistake, I want somebody that is caring, I can communicate with. Those are important attributes, not just for raising children, but certainly for raising children. Let me give you a few statistics. The United States, the great old US of A, has the highest rate of teenage pregnancies, teenage birth, and abortion in the Western industrialized world. Teenage pregnancy has declined since the 1990s. 750,000 teen girls get pregnant every year. 2/3 of that I'm losing that train, the number I gave you, 750,000. 2/3 of the 750,000 who get pregnant never finish high school. Important. And teenage sexuality is a difficult subject because we don't want our children sex. Think about your mother and father and sex. Just So think about your child engaging in sex. See, what happens is we bring up our own sex. Oh wow, I can't go into that. That's more adult than I want to get into. But don't equate yourself with your children. They're going to be sexual beings. And allow them to be sexual beings at the mature time when they're ready to be. But guide them through that process. When my girls, I had another instance. Like I said, I had 2 instances when the children were younger. I think one was 12, the oldest was 12, and the youngest was, about 4 years younger. So, those were younger years. And it was okay, it was different. Because children tend to respond and listen a little bit more. And again, I was a little bit of a dictator, so it kind of worked for me because I was able to control things. But once you get your teens and everything that is going on, you have to talk to them with a little bit of, maturity. I was raising later on in life. I was raising 2 teenage girls. By myself. I had a great support system, but I was raising them. So, a lot of that fell on me. And I used to tell them things like this. Very mature. I had kids sitting next to you. You know, boys are going to tell you that you can't get pregnant if you do it standing up. You have sex standing up. Why? Because the sperm is going to come down and it's not going to go up into your body. Don't believe the hype. You can get pregnant if the boy does not even insert his private in you. Fact. Now you can Google it. Back then there was no such thing as Google. They had to take my word. But how I know that? Because that's some of the lies I used to use. I don't want to get pregnant. We'll do it standing up. you I was a teenage boy. Did they fall for it, Harry? That's none of your business. But I told my girls that kind of stuff, and I was very frank with them. And I was very hard. If boys called, they couldn't just call on the phone and talk to my daughters. Hello, this is Charles. Can I speak to Shahara? Charles, this is Shahara's dad. I don't know you. Before you can talk to my daughter on the phone, I gotta meet you face to face so I know who's talking to her. So in case you upset her, I know who to look for. That was the first conversation. Now hundreds of boys might have called her over the years of high school. Yeah, that's how many boys will like your girls and vice versa. But I think 5 of them came over. So that's like weeding out. Because I remember, why did I do that? Because I remember when I used to go to a girl's house when I was young. And she had a bunch of uncles and tough brothers. I ain't messing her over because I ain't having them knuckleheads beat me up. So if it scared me, it scared some of the boys. I had a young man tell me later on in life. He said, Mr. Paden, I liked your daughter, but I was scared of you. And I laughed because I said, yeah, well, it worked. Not that he wasn't a nice young man. But if you don't communicate with your child, and I'm coming close to an end, it's going to be total communication shutdown. I had that happen to me, where me and one of my teenage daughters, for whatever reason, got mad. And she got real mad. In my house, I don't care how mad you is. Go sit yourself in your room until you unmad. Well, it took about 2 weeks for her to get unmad. And I didn't care. This is my house. You're going to go wash the dishes. You could do it mad, because you're mad. You're not talking to me. But you can't say, those kind of things. But that's total communication shutdown. They don't want to talk to you, and you don't talk to them. And you know what happens when it's total communication shutdown? They'll find somebody else to talk to. Maybe it is that little boy. Maybe it is some other person that doesn't have your best interest or their best interest. So be able to communicate, because at least you should know that as a parent you have their best interests at heart. Remember the 3 C's. I can't say it enough. Consistency. Starting as young as you can do it. Consistency, communication, and caring. Now, I'm going to end on these other facts. Some big problems with teens today: drug abuse, depression, suicide, alcohol abuse, gangs and violence, peer pressure, teen pregnancy, gender confusion, homosexuality. You may have to deal with one or more of these issues. How you do it could shape your child. Children aren't perfect. Parents aren't perfect. But how you deal with problems can help you. My children are now great parents, and they talk and they communicate, and I am so proud of them because I sit down. And one time I joked with Shahara's youngest daughter, because I was picking her up from school several years ago, and she said, so I said, your mother let you talk to her like that? But I did it laughingly because it was funny, because my kids had said, but I don't want to. You wait a minute. Come on, Paden. I could have did better than that. She had a right to say, first of all, she's a straight A student. You talk back to me, like, you what? You know, you doing your stuff. So parents, be the best you could be. Be consistent. Communicate. Be caring. I could talk more about it. My book. I don't try to promote my book. I've read it. It's an excellent book. I wrote it. But it talks about my experiences, not because I'm an expert, because I can help you because of the mistakes I made, and I raised great children in spite of it. It's called Parental Guides on the top. A living testimony. Excuse me. How to raise America's nightmare educated children of color. Available on Amazon.com, where you can call Harry Paden. I'm sorry. I cracked myself up. But I hope you learned something from this. To God be the glory. 3 C's. Consistency, communication, caring. Start today. Don't wait till they're teenagers, because it'll be too late. This is the Paden perspective. Thank you for taking the time to listen.